the Center for Community Dialogue and Training. We're glad you're here to learn how to use neutral dialogue circles to help youth enhance their communication skills and interpersonal bonds. This training, which is about an hour and a half long, is designed to be used with materials found in the Connection Circles manual. You can download the manual from our website, which is ourfamilyservices.org. Our website also has a link to the 30-minute Introduction to the Connection Circles webinar, which overviews the program as well as the research underlying the Connection Circles approach and the results of the evaluation of the program. During this training, you're going to learn 3 key elements for successfully implementing a Connection Circles program. You're going to look at the skills of neutral facilitation and how to get started. So our agenda for today, the introduction and overview, which we're in right now, then a demonstration of a connection circle, so you get a little bit better sense of how that works. We'll look at the essential elements of calling a circle. We'll look at 3 key elements of successful program implementation, and those are dialogue circles, neutral facilitation, and site commitment. And finally, we'll take a look at what you need to do to get started. So to start with the introductions, my name is Chris Medvesic. I'm with Community Dialogue Specialist with the Center for Community Dialogue and Training. The center is part of Our Family Services, a nonprofit agency which has been serving populations in southern Arizona since 1953. The Center for Community Dialogue provides community mediation services, communication, and alternative dispute resolution training, as well as community forums and structured circle-based dialogue circles that reach more than 1,500 individuals annually. Connection Circles are a project of the Center for Community Dialogue, and they are funded by a grant from the Association for Conflict Resolution and JAMS Foundation, Initiative for Students and Youth. So what are Connection Circles? As you can see here, there's a short explanation and a longer explanation. Connection Circles are an innovative pilot conflict resolution curriculum that's designed to be appropriate for youth ages 14 to 24, including youth who may have had a lot of personal experience with conflict. They are designed to be used in a long-term program or in a short-term way, and are appropriate for a variety of settings like schools, shelters, after-school programs, group homes, etc. The many uses of Connection Circles and the curriculum to help youth improve their communication and conflict resolution skills have yet to be explored, but we are excited that you are going to be helping us take this the next step in implementing it in your program as well. Connection Circles were conceived by Center Manager Catherine Tornbaum as a way to support youth and staff at Reunion House, which is a shelter for homeless youth run by Our Family Services. Thanks to the grant from the ACR JAMS Foundation, we were able to expand the program to 6 long-term host sites in Tucson, some running multiple circles. Besides Reunion House, these sites included a drop-in lounge for LGBTQ youth, an after-school job training program for high schoolers, a classroom at an alternative high school, a branch of the public library, and an after-school program for youth with behavioral health challenges. These were all considered long-term sites because they offered a consistent program every week at the same time and place. In addition, a number of short-term circles were initiated at different sites. Sometimes they ran just once, sometimes they ran for a few weeks. In some instances, short-term circles were used as a way to help youth gain perspective and knowledge, experience empowerment and recognition, and establish group norms and bond as a group. Groups such as youth councils or participants in a class would participate in several selected circles within a defined period of time. Short-term circles also have been used as a rapid response tool that enables a large number of youth to have a civil discussion in which many voices are heard. This happened here in Tucson after the school shooting in Parkland, Florida in early 2018. 400 high school students at Tucson High School gathered in the auditorium to discuss their feelings about the event and what they would like to see happen at their school. To run the Connection Circles program around the city, the Center for Community Dialogue trained a corps of 40 volunteer facilitators over the course of 2 years to facilitate weekly circles in coordination with their host sites. So what happens when youth participate in a connection circle? Well, they get to hold respectful, meaningful conversations in which they feel heard and they hear others. And we've been told by staff at some programs that these dialogues are the longest and most respectful conversations the kids and staff have with each other. By connecting the topic to personal experience, youth also identify the feelings and behaviors that characterize conflict in themselves and others. They also experience empowerment and recognition, the sense of being heard and also recognizing and understanding where the other person is coming from. And as many mediators know, this is the basis for conflict transformation. Connection circles also help youth make connections between conflict resolution strategies and their personal conflicts. And they make connections with other youth and with staff at their sites through improved communication and enhanced empathy. Okay, so that's enough explanation and description. Let's give you a more experiential introduction to the circle. Here is a 20-minute audio recording of a connection circle on the topic of respect. The participants are members of the Connection Circles program at City High School in Tucson, Arizona. In the recording that you're going to hear, I am serving as a facilitator, but the pictures that are accompanying this recording were taken on a different day, so there's not going to be a one-to-one matchup with the voices that you're hearing and the people in the photos. The photos were taken during an actual Connection Circles session, and I am not the facilitator in these photos. To enhance the experience, let's put you into the circle as well. Imagine yourself sitting in this circle. I'd like you to pause the recording after the facilitator poses a discussion question and give your own answer to the question. I ask that you actually say your response out loud if your space allows for that. It's okay to whisper. It may feel a little awkward at first, but it will give you a more realistic experience of the circle. If there are several people watching this training together, each person should verbally share their response and even pass a talking piece as you would in an actual circle. Although this isn't the same as a face-to-face circle experience, taking the time to insert yourself into this circle will give you a more felt experience of the dialogue process. And after this demonstration, we will analyze the different elements of the connection circle experience. So let's begin our circle. In the circle as a listener and a speaker. The next is to stay in the circle. Hi, my name is Chris, and I'm going to be the neutral facilitator today. As a neutral facilitator, my role is going to be to pose questions for you to answer, but I'm not going to be participating in the conversation. This is going to be a little bit different kind of conversation than we normally have. I won't be restating your answers because what you say is valid in and of itself, and it doesn't need my response to make it more valid. Your feelings are powerful in and of themselves. So first I'd like to start by reviewing the circle agreements and ask for agreement to these list of things. First is to participate in the circle as a listener and a speaker. The next is to stay in the circle until the end, because when you leave, you take your energy out of the circle and we really feel its loss. So if you know that you're going to have to be leaving in the middle, please tell us right away so we know. One person speaks at a time using the talking piece. Show respect for all. It's okay to pass. So if you're not quite ready to answer, go ahead and say pass. I'll come back to you at the end of the round and make sure that you don't want to answer it back at that time. This is a no phone zone, so if you'd please be sure to turn off your phone and put it away. And the last is that what's said in the circle stays in the circle. It's, the topic itself you may want to talk about, but people need to know that you're not going to go out and name them by name and say that they said this or that. So we ask that you keep confidentiality about what's said here in the circle. Can everybody agree to those agreements? Great, thank you. So our first round is short. We'd like to have introductions. Please say your name and tell us one thing about your name. For example, were you named after someone? Do you have a nickname? Does your name mean something? And I'm going to start by passing the talking piece to my right.
Hi, my name is Marisol Badilla. My pronouns are she, her, hers. My grandmother gave me my name. Mar y Sol in Spanish means sea and sun. And my grandmother gave me this name because historically in our family there's been a lot of like domestic abuse, or women who have not like accomplished their dreams because they've gotten married, or for some reason like a man has stopped them. And so my grandmother wanted to make sure that I was somebody that had a lot of strength. And so Mar means sea and sun means sol. And so my grandmother liked that because the sea is so deep and so wide that you'll never finish knowing it. And then in the sun, if you get too close, you can get burned. And so that was the way of my grandmother guaranteeing that I was a strong person.
Hi, my name is Nadia. I prefer to go by she, her, hers. My parents chose or came across the name Nadia randomly. They just liked the way it sounded. But after researching it a little bit, they discovered that its original meaning was hope. And so my middle name was Faith to go along with it.
My name is Francisco Mendez, pronouns he, him, his. I got my name, my dad chose my name for my grandfather and my great-grandfather. We all have the same name and middle name, Francisco Ernesto Mendez. But the name derives from France. It stands for Frenchman.
Thank you all. For our next round, we're going to talk a little bit more about respect. So respect is something we all want, but we don't always feel like we get. For this round, the question is, how do you define respect? And there are no right or wrong answers. And I'm going to start the talking piece going to the left this time.
Respect to me is just an understanding of each other's boundaries and customs and being able to show empathy in a way.
Respect to me stems out of the saying, treat others the way you want to be treated. I think we need to come to an understanding that we all have similar objectives, and just because our ways of getting there aren't the same, it doesn't mean that we're also different.
Respect to me when it comes to other individuals is respecting each other's humanity. But I think respect goes, it's more than that. Is respecting everything, our Mother Earth, and and even in my family, respect is also like respecting your ancestors who have come before you, and yeah.
Thank you. So, in addition to the ways that you've defined respect, another way we could kind of summarize it is to say that respect means knowing and acting on the foundational belief that I matter and you matter. This means that each person is equally a unique contributor to the greater whole. Let's talk for a minute about the opposite of respect, disrespect, or thinking that someone is disrespecting you, whether or not they mean to. That can cause a lot of conflict in the world. So, have you ever been disrespected? What did the other person do or say that felt disrespectful? Who's ready to start? We'll pass the talking piece to that person. Have you ever been disrespected, and what was said or done that felt disrespectful? Francisco.
I've been disrespected in the way that we had a discussion and I shared my opinion, but the other person rejected my opinion and belittled it.
You can put it past left or right.
Okay.
I don't think that disrespect or takes a lot of action. It can even just be inaction. I had a similar situation to Francisco where I wanted to do something that my friends didn't. And a lot of times when people don't like your ideas, they try to put them down or give valid reasons why they're not good ideas. And I think that can be really disrespectful.
Interesting enough, I felt disrespected during a time when they were trying to create more diversity. And so here's a story. Over the summer, I was asked to be in the workshop. It was called Indigenous 101. And all the humanities and Spanish teachers were supposed to be in the workshop, which was like the basic stuff. And I felt disrespected because my principal didn't acknowledge that I have a master's degree in this, and doesn't acknowledge that I'm an indigenous descendant. And it felt very disrespectful for me to having to be present for Indigenous 101 workshop.
Thank you for those responses. Respect is important to our sense of self-worth. Who are the people in your life who act respectfully towards you? We've talked about people who don't treat us with respect and what that looks like. Who treats you with respect, and what do they do that makes you feel respected? Who would like to start?
I think one person in my life that has always given me a lot of respect and that I learned respect from the most was my dad. And I think he does that basically by, especially in contrast to my mom, is by giving me space to make my own decisions and to fall on my own. I think that's respectful because he's kind of implying or saying without saying that he believes that I'm capable of handling my own life.
Someone that's respected me was, I'd say for like my whole life, I'd say my older sister. She respected my values and my opinions. Also my brother, but that's like something recent that we've both grown up and matured. And also, I guess people that need something from you also respect you.
Somebody that I learned respect from is an elder, Jose Garcia, who is the governor of the Tohono in Sonora. And I learned a lot of respect from him because I learned to listen. I learned to stay quiet. I learned to really think about how am I going to respond and not respond not just by reacting. Because a lot of times the harm that is done cannot be undone. And so I've learned respect that way.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's think about respect. We've been pointing it outward, who's disrespectful, who's respectful. Now let's point it inward. How do you show respect for yourself? What do you do that shows respect for yourself? And whoever would like to start, you can pass the talking piece right or left.
I respect others by understanding their background, their influence, and their situation. And I'd say that I'd carefully listen to what they have to say and show that I'm listening with my body language.
I'd say that I learned and show respect to myself, especially as I got older. Even in the simplest things, I think when I was younger, I didn't see the need in brushing my teeth every day, as disgusting as it may sound, or even doing things like taking a shower every day. But I think when you have a little more appreciation for yourself, you start to realize the value in the little things that you do, like putting a little effort into yourself. So yeah.
How do I respect myself? I think I respect myself by standing up for my beliefs, not compromising them, and sometimes me standing up for myself, because at the end I have, like, the self-respect is, I think, is one of the most important levels of respect, and me standing up for myself might be seen as disrespectful for others who are not used to a person of color standing up for themselves. However, I think that is the ultimate form of respect of myself, is standing for myself and what I believe in.
Thank you. So we know that we want to show more respect for ourselves, or we want to at least respect ourselves, and we know that behaving respectfully to others is something that we appreciate when it happens to us. But sometimes it doesn't happen. We don't show respect for ourselves, or we don't show respect for others. What gets in the way of you showing more respect for yourself and others? What stops you from being respectful? What kinds of things come up that stop you? And again, whoever would like to start, we'll go around from that person.
I was talking to an elder, and he said about disrespect. He said, when that person is disrespecting you, is it that they are disrespecting your soul, your spirit, or are they disrespecting your ego? And if they are disrespecting your ego, then you can let that go. But if they're disrespecting your soul or your spirit, that's when you have to stand up for yourself. And I think a lot of times what's keeping me from respecting myself, for standing up for myself, is assuming that that person didn't mean harm, or getting tired of teaching others how to be respectful.
I think for the most part, disrespect or lack of respect even comes when people feel afraid or threatened. I think we all want to feel respected, and disrespect, because it is something that we all know we want, is kind of a wall or a guard we put up against other people, like an offense in retaliation to whenever we feel our values or beliefs are being threatened.
Can you rephrase the question again?
Sure. So the question is, what stops you from showing respect to yourself or to others?
Something that stops me from showing respect to others is maybe acknowledging that they have a parasitic personality, or that they don't deserve my respect because of their actions, that they're intentionally trying to harm me or others.
Okay, thank you. So now we're going to kind of look forward. We've looked at what has happened to us in the past and what we like to have happen to us in the past. Now let's look forward. What is one thing you can do going forward to show more respect for yourself and others? And I'm going to to pass the talking piece to the left on this one.
So what's something that I can do in the future to show respect? I would, as I said before, just acknowledge the other person, show them that we're both equals no matter what the circumstance is, and just listen to what they have to say and hope that they listen to what I have to say.
I think one of the most common ways I disrespect or don't have enough respect for people is not giving them enough space or time even. I have a tendency to be very impatient, especially when I feel like there's an issue I want it resolved as soon as possible. And I think I can practice being a little bit more respectful and even show others respect, leading by example, and giving a little bit more space and time when there is a conflict.
I mean, I think that superficially we want to say that, I want to respect everybody. But as I mentioned before, if somebody's actions like hurt my spirit or hurt my soul, like I have to really stand up for myself, and in many times that it has been seen as disrespectful, because the first act of disrespect was not acknowledged. But something that I can do is make sure that when I do stand up for myself, it's for those instances where my soul is or my spirit is really damaged versus just my ego or just being reactive to something.
Thank you all for your responses. This is our closing round, and it's what we call a one-word round. What is one word that sums up your experience in the circle today? And I'm going to pass to the right this time.
Okay.
Introspective.
Understanding.
Thank you all for participating. It's your wisdom that makes a circle what it is, a special time to reflect, share wisdom, gain insight, and appreciate our shared humanity. The circle is now closed. We really appreciate the help of the City High School Restorative Practices class in recreating a circle for our demonstration. Let's analyze this demonstration for the important elements of calling a circle. I want you to think for a second about what you noticed about the circle. What did you notice about the circle logistics, the physical aspects of the circle? What did you notice about the circle facilitator? And what did you notice about the group dynamics? Think for a second. What was happening with the logistics, the facilitator, and the group dynamics in that demonstration that you just saw? Some of the things that you may have noticed in the physical logistics were really simple, basic elements. The chairs were in a circle. They were in a quiet, private space. There was a facilitator. There was a talking piece. And although you couldn't see it, there was a script that the facilitator was following. There were youth participants, and there was a site staff person who was also participating as a full member of the circle. In terms of facilitator skills, some of the things that I hope you noticed is that the facilitator was friendly and respectful and transparent about the process and the facilitator's role in running that process. Very open, there's no secrets. The facilitator formally opened and closed the circle. The facilitator also showed attentive body language, something you might have picked up from the photos, upheld the agreements, followed the script, and was neutral and non-judgmental about the responses by the participants. When you have the facilitator skills and the physical logistics working together, then you get group dynamics. A sort of a group synergy is created, which affects the mood of the circle, and it affects group participation as well. In this demonstration, what did you notice about some of the group dynamics? Here's some elements that I hope you saw. The group had a safe and respectful environment. There was a sense of order and calm and deliberateness in the responses, not a sense of anxiousness and waiting to jump in. Participants followed the agreements, they shared meaningfully, and they connected the topic to experiences in their own life, big ones and little ones. And they built off of each other's experiences. They commented on what someone else had said. They noticed the commonalities between their experience and others, or they noticed how their experience was different than others. Okay, we've observed and analyzed the building blocks of a successful circle session. And now let's look at the building blocks of a successful Connection Circles program, and then take a closer look at each element. These three pieces, dialogue circle model, skilled neutral facilitators, site commitment, are essential to the successful implementation of a program. Program evaluation of the pilot program that we ran here in Tucson found that when a site properly implemented all three of these factors, then the site's circles also were rated higher for youth participation and engagement. Unlike many other elements of the Connection Circles program, these three elements are under the site's control. We cannot control the mood of the youth, or outside negative influences, or inconsistent program attendance, or limited site resources, and all of that can make it difficult to sustain a program. But we can control these three elements, and when they are in place, they can help mitigate the impact of the uncontrollable factors. So let's look at each three of these in a little bit more detail. The first key element is using a dialogue circles model rather than some other method of communication. The dialogue circles model was chosen because its structure accords with research into the best way to teach communication and conflict resolution to youth, including disadvantaged and vulnerable youth. If you're interested in learning more about this research, it's included in the manual and also in the JAMS introductory webinar. The key components of the dialogue circle, as used in the Connection Circles program, are voluntary participation. Number one, if someone doesn't want to join the circle, that's okay. Talking in the circle also is voluntary. All participants have the right to pass when they receive the talking piece. Structured conversation using a talking piece is the way the dialogue circle is run, and by structured conversation we mean the discussion has ground rules, it's run by a facilitator, there's a script, and a talking piece. The Connection Circles manual contains 15 scripts on topics including active listening, feelings and needs, blame, unfairness, respect, gossip, forgiveness, anger, and many other aspects of communication and conflict resolution. In a dialogue circle, all voices are heard. Every participant in the circle is both a speaker and a listener. Circle participants connect the topic to their personal experiences of conflict and learn from the experiences of others. There is no overt effort to teach. Rather, the circle facilitator presents a small amount of information as a way to start a discussion in which participants are free to connect to the topic in whatever way makes sense to them. The Connection Circles manual goes through a number of key concepts in conflict resolution and communication, but the facilitator is not responsible for ensuring that participants learn these concepts. Rather, the facilitator is neutral, non-judgmental, non-reactive, and this pulling back from attempting to make people learn something, but simply presenting some information and then letting them connect to it in whatever way makes sense to them, has proven to be one of the essential elements to the appeal of connection circles to youth. Okay, so the second element, neutral facilitator, it gets its own category because it's one that we need to look at in a little bit more detail. So we're going to not only talk about it in an academic kind of way, but we're going to dive into the components of neutrality. This is one of the key pieces that differentiates connection circles from other types of dialogue programs. We have found in the circles that we've run over the past 2 years that youth definitely prefer neutral facilitation and that they wouldn't show up when facilitators would deviate from this and attempt to teach. Youth have said that they find neutral facilitation and that kind of dialogue as a relief because there isn't a pressure on them to come to a conclusion or to defend what they have to say. They are simply able to say their piece and know that it's been heard. Neutral facilitation puts power in the hands of the participants because the facilitator's not there to tell you what the right answer is or guide you into a particular direction. That's up to you where you're going to take it. It is hard for adults to be neutral towards youth because we have a strong urge to guide and correct, and that has been the kind of role that we've had with youth as an adult. We have been the authority, and if you are running a program, you are the authority within that program, and it can be hard for you to switch hats and go to a neutral place. So let's try and embed this concept of neutrality a little bit more firmly by going to a metaphor. I'd like to stop for a moment and have you consider the answer to this question. How is a neutral facilitator like the chauffeur of a limousine? I'm going to give you about 30 to 45 seconds to think about that and jot down some answers, and then we'll come back and I'll share some things that other people have come up with. Okay, did you get a good list? Here are some comparisons that occurred to us, and you may actually have others that draw the connection even tighter. Facilitators and chauffeurs are in charge of the ride, but not the destination. In other words, facilitators run the process, but what participants say is up to them. And then facilitators respectfully accept all responses without comment or correction, while ensuring that the process remains safe and respectful. So just like a chauffeur goes where they're asked to go, but they do so in a safe and respectful and legal kind of a way when they're driving their car, facilitators also make sure that the process is done correctly, but the destination is up to the participants. Facilitators and chauffeurs are prepared. Chauffeurs have maps, they have gas in their tank. Facilitators have scripts, and they have exercise materials that they use. Both facilitators and chauffeurs provide a smooth, safe, comfortable ride. In driving and in facilitation, less is more. You want to keep a gentle hand on the wheel, no sharp turns or abrupt stops. Good facilitation, like good driving, doesn't call attention to itself. Facilitators and chauffeurs know the participant is the most important person, either in the room or in the car. As neutral facilitators, we're there to serve participants in whatever conversation they are ready to have. It's not about me and my needs. That is the facilitator mantra. So, when we're doing a good job at facilitating, it can almost seem like we're doing nothing at all. It's a very subtle art, and when people master it, the group feels like it's doing everything itself. But there's one time when the facilitator really has to shine, and that's at the beginning of the circle. The facilitator's welcome, or opening statement, is the big moment, the one thing that must be done and done well to start creating a special space for the circle. Consider these questions and answer to yourself. What sorts of things make you feel welcome? What sorts of things make you feel unwelcome? What do you think is the value of a good circle welcome? Here are some responses that we received from others. Things that make us feel welcome: eye contact, using our names, being greeted, the tone of voice that's used when people are talking to us. These are among the elements that make us feel welcome, and you may have others on your list that are equally as important. What sorts of things make us feel unwelcome? Oh, being ignored, being treated rudely, being ordered around. Surprisingly, we just don't feel very welcome when those things happen. So what is the value of a good circle welcome? Well, it creates a good first impression, and we know, especially when we're working with youth, that the first impression is the biggest impression. When we create a good first impression, it enhances trust and safety in the group. People feel more comfortable and they feel more open to respond to the questions. So what are the elements of the facilitator's welcome? In a moment, we're going to post a welcome script on the side here, which is the typical script that you see in every circle topic. It starts with this welcome. But it isn't just a rote 5-element thing. This is something that has to be personalized while continuing to express all of the pieces that are outlined in the script. So let me go through and show you what I mean. So there are 5 elements to the facilitator's welcome. The first is welcome and introduce yourself. Hello, my name is Chris, and I'll be your neutral facilitator today. You want to explain your role. My job is to support you in having an in-depth and respectful conversation. I will not be involved in the content of the conversation, nor will I be making comments about what you say. Explain the priority of their thoughts and feelings. This is a way to honor and respect your thoughts and feelings. They are powerful in and of themselves and do not need anyone to validate them. Review the circle agreements. They're coming in now at the bottom of the screen. Participate in the circle as a listener and speaker. One person speaks at a time using the talking piece. Show respect for all. Please stay in the circle until the end. It's okay to pass, and I will come back to you to give you a second chance if you'd like. And what's said in the circle stays in the circle. And the facilitator formally opens the circle, formally invites us all into this space with the simple but profound words, the circle is now open. So you can see that it's not that complicated. but it does an important job of setting the stage, of letting everybody know what they can expect, of showing the transparency of the facilitator, and the way that it's delivered is a big piece of the message. You don't want to be just reading it with your nose in the paper, rushing through it. You want to be delivering it in a way that truly gets to those elements that make people feel welcome. And then you will have the responses that people have when they feel welcome. So for practice right now, I would like you to take a minute and create a welcome that includes all of these required elements, and then deliver your facilitator welcome out loud, preferably to another person. Don't rush through it. Set the stage and deliver it as sincerely and naturally as you can. You should pause this recording while you are creating your welcome. It should take about 5 minutes, and delivering it hopefully to another person, but if there isn't anyone there, you still can deliver it out loud, and then restart the recording and we will come back together again. So now we're looking back at the things that we've covered in the facilitator skills section. To sum it all up, practice and be prepared. Saying it out loud, as simple as it seems, is just a terrific way to feel more confident about it when you have to say it in a group. Be especially mindful of the need to stay neutral and know that as an authority figure, it may be hard for you to stay neutral. Use the facilitator welcome to create a safe, respectful space and invite people into it. Follow the script and trust the circle to work its magic. In addition, trust the participants to respond to those questions in a way that's authentic for them in that moment. Whatever they say, trust that that's what they want to participate in the circle in that moment, and it's okay with you. And lastly, remember that the medium is the message. The dialogue circle and the experience of speaking and listening to each other in this way is carrying a more powerful lesson than whatever the topic is that's being discussed. Okay, so now let's look at the third element for successful implementation, which is site commitment. We want to be sure that the site is on board, and even though site commitment is listed last on the list, it could easily be first on the list, because without site commitment, it's very hard to sustain a program. So before starting, take time to consider these pieces of site commitment and see how you will manage them at your site. The first is the site's desire to offer the Connection Circles program. That means, does it fit with your overall goals for youth, and can it be integrated into your larger program? In what ways is your site already working on improving communication and conflict resolution skills? How do Connection Circles fit into this effort? Will staff be educated about the program? It's really important to bring staff on board, because this is going to be something that is going to happen on a regular basis. There's going to be staff resources that are dedicated to it. There will be a time and place that's set aside for it, and we want to be sure that everyone is on board with this program. So provide staff with opportunities to participate or have a sample circle at a staff meeting so they can experience the circle for themselves. Consider holding Connection Circles for staff for several weeks as a regular part of your staff meetings, and use the same topics as the youth program, because these are ageless topics and they can be connected. People can connect with these topics no matter how old they are. Another part of site commitment is the commitment to have a consistent circle in a same place at the same time with the same facilitator. Because without this consistency, the program will get bumped anytime anything else comes up, and the youth will not be able to count on it, and it's already asking them to communicate in a different way than they're used to, so any other deviations make it that much harder to encourage them to do that. Another thing about being consistent in your place, time, and facilitator is giving yourself some time to work through early awkwardness. Show a commitment to getting it going and keeping it going, because at first everyone is going to be not so sure what this is and how it works, and you need to commit to it through the shakedown period. And the last part of site commitment is that the staff will engage in the circle as a participant, not as neutral facilitators. One staff person, maybe two. You don't want to have more staff than you have youth, that's for sure. But you want to have an opportunity to level the playing field between youth and staff in their experiences and stories about their experiences with conflict and with communication. So asking a staff member to commit to come in and simply participate, there's no upfront work that's needed by that staff member, no reports they have to file about it afterwards, but they do have to make the time to be there and to be willing to speak from their heart about the answers to the questions that are asked in the circle within the parameters that they feel comfortable, which is true for every participant in the circle. We had a staff member at Reunion House, the shelter for homeless youth, and he was commenting about how the circles really enabled him to get to know the kids in a way that he couldn't otherwise. He said, you know, I can't go up to a kid and strike up a conversation with them because that would just be too weird. The kid would be like, what, am I in trouble? Why are you talking to me? And on the other hand, kids can't come up to staff either and really tell them when they appreciate something they've done or talk to them in a respectful way. It's hard for them sometimes to ask for things to be done differently. But the circle offers staff this opportunity to get to know the kids better, and it offers kids this opportunity to give feedback to staff in a respectful way. Daniel was the staff person at Reunion House, learned because of the circle conversation that the youth really appreciated the way that he spoke to them and the way that he encouraged them. And he said, I never would have known that otherwise. And it was very important and gratifying to get that kind of feedback. So now we're going to switch gears again. Here we are at the end of the training, and we're starting up with a slide that's called Getting Started. And that's very appropriate because the end always marks a new beginning. We've looked at the goals and structures of connection circles, and we've gotten a small taste of how it works with the demonstration. We've examined 3 key elements of implementation that will help you launch a program that's relevant, meaningful, and sustainable. And now let's take a few minutes and look at the next steps for putting it all together and getting started. This first one is the key one, to review and discuss the components of site commitment, because without site commitment, it's going to be very difficult to sustain an ongoing and well-attended program. Take the facilitator training. Check. That's the training you're taking right now. Obtain the free Connection Circles manual. You can get that at this website, ourfamilyservices.org, and then scroll down and click on the Connection Circles page. The manual contains implementation guidelines, circle scripts, circle exercises and activities, and youth journal pages for each topic. And then there's other support materials in there. There's an exercise called Red Card, Green Card, which is based on the principles of nonviolent communication. There's logs and observation forms that can be used to evaluate how the program is going. Just a whole bunch of stuff in the manual that will make it easier for you to put the circle together and get it started. Here are some of the circle script topics. There's 15 of them. They are standalone scripts. They may be used in any order, although typically we do start with the difficult conversations script because that describes what a dialogue circle is. Each script relies on broad, open-ended questions that enable participants to respond to the topic in whatever way they choose. The questions don't guide participants to see things in a certain way, but rather to consider the topic in relation to their own experience. You can create a short-term program by pulling together several selected scripts on selected topics to be used within a defined time period. I include this agenda because the Connection Circles dialogue is actually one part of an hour-long program that we put together when we did our Connection Circles program. This is obviously optional, and different sites may do it different ways, but we found that just coming in, having everyone sit down and talk, and then leaving again, it just was a little too abrupt and didn't lead to the kind of relationship building that we wanted to do. So here's an example of a 1-hour connection circle, where first the youth would gather in the space and they would have something to eat, which you can't talk enough about the value of snacks when you're working with kids. The youth would play a quick cooperative game or non-competitive activity, and we have in the manual a list of activities that can be used for small groups, large groups. Some of them are very active, some of them are just sitting and thinking. All of them are meant to be fun and a way for people to laugh together and just break the ice a little bit. Then the facilitators review the circle agreements, followed by the discussion grounds. I think it's important to note here that everyone participates in the circle. There are no observers. So if someone doesn't want to join the circle, then they would need to leave the area. You wouldn't want to have the circle in a place where there would be other people in the room doing something different, because that would really get in the way of the conversation. Of course, once someone chooses to join the circle, they have the option to pass when the talking piece comes to them. The answers are up to the participants. And after the circle is over, there's an optional journaling activity. Every script has a journal attached to that topic, and you can pass it out to youth and they can think about the reflective questions there, which guide them a little bit further in connecting that topic to experiences in their own life. As you engage in connection circles and their usage within your program or site, we're happy to be a sounding board and provide advice based on our experiences over the past 2 years. This training provided you with the nuts and bolts of a Connection Circles program, but the spirit of the circle is something you must experience for yourself, and your skill will come with practice. The motto of the Connection Circles program is listen from the heart, speak from the heart. And we wish that wonderful gift for all of your efforts. Please feel free to contact us at this location, at this email address and URL, and to go online and access the free materials and the introductory video that is on that site. Thank you for your participation in this training, and thank you for all that you do for youth. We wish you the best. Let us know how it's going. Goodbye.